Eastern Kingdom's revamp is so much bigger than we thought. WoW Midnight. Yes, now if you don't remember, when they announced WoW Midnight, they did talk about revamping the entirety of like Quel'Thalas and everything. And don't forget, Silvermoon's been sitting there in a fucking time warp. You can't even fly in that place. They haven't revamped it since they put it in the game. A Silvermoon revamp. A Lordaeron revamp? Holy shit. Let's see what Doran, the teller of truths himself, has to say about this stuff.
The Quel'Thalas revamp will be huge, and when I say huge, I mean literally huge, as in they're gonna make all the zones larger for dragon riding. They will also add new things, and Quel'Thalas isn't going to just be the same thing with new models and a facelift. The zones will be completely different. With Quel'Thalas,
yeah, I'm sure when they revamp these zones, they're gonna advance the story. That only makes sense. You can't just revamp the zone and just continue on. There's a lot of stuff that's happened. I mean, you get high elves, void elves. They're all returning, and they all call this city home still. So you gotta add some storyline to it.
Of course, the surrounding zones will also have to be significantly modified. This lines
the Dead
up
Scar
perfectly
should
with
heal
the
a
new
little bit.
revamp in 10.2.5 and the setup for WoW Midnight. This major restoration project should also include Undercity, Plaguelands getting updated, possibly Stratholme. We should get a brand new line city of Stromgarde, amongst other things. WoW Midnight may just be the biggest revamp project Blizzard has done since Cataclysm, so let's take a look at the interviews, the data mine stuff from Dragonflight, and everything we currently know on what this northern Eastern Kingdom part will look like. As a Warcraft player, you're going to love this game. Call of Dragons.
Call of Dragons, do it. Do it. Now, I was going to say, considering that they have an entire team doing the Midnight expansion already, I can imagine that there could be a lot of big content going into that thing. You know, because they're working on it already. They said they have a Midnight team, a War Within team, and a current WoW team. So the amount of stuff that they could get done for the WoW Midnight expansion, I could imagine major revamps happening in that thing, definitely.
As well as take part in a really immersive storyline. Best of all, there is a huge PvP.
I haven't bought it yet,
this is an
Sir Lar.
MMO, of course. You got raid behemoths you can defeat
and I stream this game, so
with your alliance.
Take your time buying it. Buy it when it feels right.
Skills, deploy unique units, and best of all, you can command your legions just like in an RTS game.
Same.
Explore the map,
I know I'm gonna buy it. I just didn't do it yet.
Advantage over your foes. So it's never been a better time to start. Download Call of Dragons today on PC with my link in the description and forge your own destiny in the world
I'll try to save you one,
of Daenerys. If you can follow the news, you have certainly heard that the world revamp isn't happening. We won't be getting a new Cataclysm. But I feel like so many people have completely misunderstood that statement and what they actually meant.
Look, I agree. I agree with what he's saying. And as far as, like, you guys are talking about buying the expansion, pre-ordering the expansion in chat. King, you said you bought it day one. That's fine. I'm probably going to get the Epic Edition, too. I mean, I stream the game, so, you know... Look, if I didn't stream, I don't know if I'd get the Epic one, but I'm going to want the 3 days early access because I want to stream the expansion as soon as it goes live. So that's fine, whatever. I'll buy the Epic one and fucking write it off on my taxes or something. But I haven't done it yet. That shit's still on still sitting waiting for me. Look, there's still the upgrade available. When I go to WoW, if you want the proof, look at that. It still says upgrade available. I haven't pre-ordered the game yet. And I would say that to anybody. You don't got to rush into it. Yes, you'll get the in-game mount stuff earlier and all that stuff right now, but you can just wait. I know a lot of people are dealing with buying Christmas gifts and shit right now. You know, we're doing Christmas shopping in the Sam household. You know, that's happening here too. So take your time, pre-order when it feels right. You don't got to rush it. Maybe you're a King Julian, you want to order it day one. Maybe you want to wait. That's okay. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel nerd pressured. You'll be okay. Get it when it's right.
Not
Fuck Christmas WoW is more important. I agree.
One expansion like back in Cataclysm, you know, proof some earth-shattering event, but instead they will revamp the relevant zones to the next 3 expansions, which we know what they are, which is essentially going to be like half the world revamp.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
It will be a gradual change. However, I would say based on all the interviews from the various devs and evidence we currently have, we are going to get like a mini Cataclysm across the northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms.
Just remember, this part wasn't touched in Cataclysm. We are going to get a midi Cataclysm. None of this was ever revamped. You still cannot fly in these zones. These zones are the same as they were in fucking Burning Crusade. They have not touched them. Even the same quest lines. Like if you make a Blood Elf today, you want to play classic WoW and retail WoW, make a Blood Elf. The quest line is the same. All the shit's the same. The zones are the same. It's still 2 polygons up there. You run around, it all looks the same. Everything's the same. They haven't touched it. So this entirety of Quel'Thalas, all this shit up here, the most northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms, all of that's getting revamped. And I hope they advance the story, like I was saying, heal the Dead Scar a bit. They literally repair the actual entrance to Silvermoon. Because if you don't know this, when you go in Silvermoon right now, you enter through a side entrance. The main entrance, the doors got blasted open by the Scourge, and it's still that way till today. They gotta fix that shit. Come on. What the hell?
Across the northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms,
advance the story a little bit.
Might just be like an actual void cataclysm. Now, people are thinking, I mean, yeah, we're getting updated Ghostlands, a new Silvermoon with new models, but it is literally going to be so much more than that. Now, keep in mind, I'm not speculating here. Post BlizzCon, the general manager for Warcraft did an interview where he gave us some really exciting information. We're giving our world builders some free reign to expand.
Nice.
Those areas may be geographically larger than they were. They'll give them more opportunity to introduce some of the smaller points of interest where you'll have a culture or a local tribe, and give them the ability to have storylines that center on that.
Wow, holy shit. They're allowing them to literally make the places bigger? Wow. And were there hints at what's their name? The trolls out there that were always fighting with the elves. Oh my god. What the hell? Oh my god, we fight them in the fucking raid, man. This is great. I always forget these fucking names, and I'm supposed to know the lore of this game. But to advance the lore, to make the areas a little bit bigger, the Amani trolls, yes. Man, how'd I forget that? They used to fight with the High Elves all the time. I'd love to see advancing of the Amani lore. I used to always say they should be a playable race, too. Add them to the Horde. Make them an allied race if you have to. But the Amanis, they should be joining at this point.
That center on that. Seeing that Dragon Riding has been introduced and is here to obviously stay, this means that Quel'Thalas and that entire area is going to be optimized
this is awesome.
for Dragon Riding,
this is bigger than I thought it would be.
The statement may be larger is going to mean a lot larger for this to work. I mean, keep in mind, you can't even fly in Silvermoon with regular flying, let alone Dragon Riding. Now, don't be fooled
this is not just an up-res, this is a remake.
So just about sprucing up the landscape a bit, optimizing it for the Dragon Riding. In a recent interview, they made it crystal clear that the goal isn't to give Quel'Thalas a cosmetic facelift with just updated graphics. They want to make this feel like the exact same place like back in the day, but a lot larger with new lore, new things to explore, a whole new aesthetic that is going to be based on TBC. So essentially keeping that old Quel'Thalas vibe with new.
And by the way, even at 2 polygons, I always thought that the Blood Elf like aesthetic and look and Silvermoon and everything around it was one of the most beautiful zones in the entire game. I love the aesthetic of these zones. I've always liked them. I always thought that autumn orange look was so good, and to see it revamped, oh man. I'm gonna have a nerd.
Significantly expanded zones.
No doubt.
However, I gotta say, this is just the start of good news. Quel'Thalas at the moment is instance. Later, it obviously won't be. And keep in mind, the entire continent of the Eastern Kingdoms is a whole. I mean, you can't just enlarge a few zones and leave everything the same. It will really mess up with everything else. Because of that, I'm almost certain all the zones are going to get updated until around maybe this line here that is kind of splitting the continent into the northern and the southern.
That'd be awesome.
Previously, this would have been a wild speculation, but keep in mind,
this is definitely possible because in Midnight, we are not getting a new continent or island or anything like we are in the War Within. So essentially, the northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms is going to be our new zone for the expansion. So they could definitely go like all in, like they do with the new zones, and just completely remake the entirety of it.
2.5,
I'm getting excited.
A brand new alliance hub of Vilnius at the bottom of this part, which means that there is an intentional setup for WoW Midnight that we are already getting in Dragonflight, so 2 expansions earlier. So based on this, let's take a quick look at how this massive revamp will happen and what changes we should be expecting across the various zones. So starting from the top, on BlizzCon, they said that this Void invasion will happen through the Sunwell, which means that you should expect potentially the big...
I could see that happening. If you haven't played the Void Elf questline before, if you want to do it just for the lore, go do it, because the Void Elves do get to go back to Silvermoon. You know, as a supposed High Elf, former High Elves, former Blood Elves, whatever, they get to go back to Silvermoon. And when they do, and they visit the Sunwell, as is the right of all Blood Elves, you know, to go back and revisit the Sunwell, Something happens when they're there. They interact with it in a certain way, and void starts to spill out everywhere around you. And you got to fight it off, and then the void elves are told, hey, get the fuck out of here. You guys are messing our shit up. So it's totally possible that the void coming through the Sunwell is what starts it all. It's not just possible. It was essentially announced.
Biggest changes to the Isle of
But it's already been hinted at through the Void Elf questline.
New architecture, a whole ton of void influence, as this is going to be like the ground zero of the void invasion. You can expect the Sunwell to look so much better, so expect a whole bunch of void things here, new architecture, new aesthetics. Now, for Silvermoon, get ready for the most thrilling news and a colossal makeover. With the talks of uniting 11 tribes and the recent Horde and Alliance dynamics, Silvermoon might just evolve into a neutral hub, reminiscent of the iconic Dalaran from a few expansions ago, although it could also, of course, end up as a Horde city, especially as Gilneas could be the Alliance one. However, this city is literally just going to get completely plucked out of the ground and replaced in its entirety, seeing how outdated it is in every possible aspect.
And like I said, it's not just going to be a revamp. It is going to be completely remade, because the current entrance, like I said, when we go into Silvermoon right now, you enter through what's on the screen right now. It's like this little back entrance. You're not entering through Silvermoon as it was intended, because the main gates are currently blasted apart by the Scourge. Nobody's ever gone through into Silvermoon through the main entrance, ever in World of Warcraft. And I hope when they remake it that you'll be able to do that and actually experience like the grandness of what the entrance of Silvermoon is supposed to be.
So expect Silvermoon to be much larger, expect the broken parts of Silvermoon to actually be fixed, and most importantly, expect to be able to fly there like
I hope they give us a reason to go there too.
How much things can change, we might be getting rid of those Kilta statues that are everywhere, as back when they were built, he was a good guy, he was their leader, so that is why they're all over Silvermoon. Furthermore, based on the data mine ships we can find, the new models, we can expect
all these assets, I remember all these,
as well as the surrounding camps. And most importantly, we should expect that dead scar to be nearly removed. I don't think it is going to heal due to so much damage from the Scourge, but now it should be more like an actual scar.
They should at least fix the
like
entrance, though.
Like it was
that's ruined by the scar.
Along these same lines, we should expect obviously big changes to Ghostlands. We should see the Scourge influence almost non-existent, as remember, there was that big removal quest line at the end of Shadowlands in Quotalas. However, a super interesting thing that I don't feel like a lot of people are talking about right now is how relevant the Amani are going to be in this expansion.
The Amani, I'm telling you, man.
The Trolls have lived in Quotalas for thousands
fighting
of
the
years,
elves
and they have been the number one enemy of the High Elves all throughout history. The Void invasion in this area is definitely not going to just go around them. They 100% will have to get involved in some
I'm going to put my stamp on it right now. Samiccus stamp. Clip it now. The Amani trolls will become playable in WoW Midnight. Or as like a pre-expansion event thing. It's going to happen. I've been saying it for a long time. I even made my whole fucking lore video about what WoW Classic Plus could be and all that shit. And I said making Amani trolls playable would be a great thing for the game, and I think it's going to happen. Has to happen. Like the pirates. Yeah, okay.
Wait, I mentioned this before, but it will be the perfect opportunity to make the forest troll playable, as remember, forest trolls, albeit another tribe, are already a part of the Horde, and they have been a part of the Horde for a really long time. They're also one of the most iconic races dating back to the original RTS
the Murloc
games.
class.
Additionally, in another interview with this exact same dev, he mentioned they already have new races planned out for WoW Midnight in the Last Titan, so new playable races are definitely coming. That is not just speculation. Seeing that both the High Elves and the Amani have been nearly wiped out in the recent times,
I have to say, though, the High Elves, the way they put them in the game is kind of fucked. I don't like it. They gave us basically scuffed High Elves. They just allowed you to make blue-eyed Blood Elves and shit, and light-skinned, blue-eyed Void Elves. I think they could have done so much more with the High Elves. Like, High Elves specifically, if you look at, like, Illyria and stuff, like, they have tattoos all over them. Like, there's a very specific aesthetic to High Elves. I feel like they could have really made High Elves a playable race, like, in and of themselves. Give them some extra customizations, new hair and facial hair features and all that stuff. Make them, like, look aesthetically slightly different from the rest of the Void Elves and the Blood Elves. And give us High Elves. I feel like that could have been a really good thing. But they didn't. They kind of debated us and just gave us blue-eyed, gave us a blue-eyed customization option. Kind of sad.
The way I see it happening is that this is going
Tuskar
to be like
are
a
coming.
historical
Tuskar are coming before the end of this expansion.
Precedent.
I promise.
Set their differences
before the end of
aside to
Dragonflight, we're getting
enemy.
Tuskar.
Let's be real. I mean, Blizzard loves these types of storylines of
Okay, bet.
uniting
Yeah, good.
and
You clipped
friendship.
it, good.
So I could totally see an alliance happening between them to save themselves from the Void invasion that threatens their entire existence. A part of the Amani could decide to join the Void to finally deal with the elves, while they splinter into another group that could become friendly. Realistically, I could even see Zulaman as a new raid in WoW Midnight. I mean, it would be very realistic, and Blizzard always loves those nostalgia points. Other than this, the little missing part of Quotalas that you can't access has been confirmed to be accessible, and the new things will be added to this area, so there's going to be brand new content that we had never seen before. Also, they said more local things will be expanded, so we should expect new content as well in the more developed zones. However, that is literally just the start.
Look, King Julian, about Drakthir being able to play other classes, it makes sense that, you know, like lore-wise, that they could learn from the other races of Azeroth now that they're interacting with them and eventually be able to be other classes. I think that will happen. I can almost guarantee that will happen, but when it's going to happen, I don't know. And don't forget, it takes more work than just opening up the class to them, because there's a whole bunch of animations that Drakthir currently don't do, that they would need to do if they wanted to be a warrior or a rogue or anything else like that. It's going to take a lot of effort from the team, and I think it'll eventually happen, but it's probably a back burner thing. Like, it's not something they care that much about right now.
These changes down to Quotalas are definitely going to reflect the surrounding
Mage
areas
might
as
work.
well,
They do casting abilities and shit already. Maybe.
Structural changes to the
it's the melee classes that would take a lot of work for them.
Previously, this might have just been sheer speculation until 10.2.5 was announced. Some spoilers for the patch, but we have data mined how we reconquer Gilneas, and we know we win in the end. I know, not a huge shocker. The entire thing seems to be a setup where the Alliance is retaking Gilneas, but it won't really be fully rebuilt, and more than likely that big Gilneas revamp is saved for around midnight when this area will be relevant. So right now we're kind of reconquering it, starting the reconstruction process that should be nearing completion in a few years' time when WoW Midnight comes. Furthermore, Undercity and the Undead issue was solved back in Shadowlands.
Every time I see Kalia Menethil, she got revamped, guys. In a major way, I'm just saying.
Yet the city hasn't exactly been revamped, so alongside Gilneas, we should expect massive changes to Tirisful Glades and Undercity, especially as we recently got that Forsaken Heritage questline where they became new Lordaeron, new Undead Lordaeron, and I also think this will be a big part of WoW Midnight as well. Furthermore, Silverpine, which is kind of in the middle, is definitely going to be changed. When keep in mind this place has been stuck.
I really hope they rebuild Lordaeron.
Back when the Forsaken were invading, and so much has changed since that point. But that is just the side stuff. We got the two most interesting zones where I
expect... a rebuilding of Lordaeron could play into the lore perfectly. I mean, you could have this whole thing about the undead becoming prideful again. Like, you know, being in the Undercity is kind of like, you're hidden away, you're disgusted by the world, and the world's disgusted by you, so you hide in the Undercity. But I feel like, you know, the undead coming back to the surface, rebuilding their actual city of Lordaeron, because at the end of the day, the undead are Lordaeronian citizens. They are people of Lordaeron. They should come back to the surface and rebuild their city, so I can explore it, because I want to see it in all of its glory in the game. I hope they do that eventually.
Really big and super interesting and long anticipated changes. So first of all, we got the Plaguelands. Now, if you guys have been following the lore for more
I'm
than
undead too. I
bit,
sit in my basement
you might
all
know
day.
that a huge restoration project has been going on there since Wrath. In fact, a big part was already updated in Cataclysm just a few years later, which means in just a few years' time, they seriously impacted the zones, as was evident with the visual changes. Now, check this out. We got rid of the Scarlets.
No Morgan won't happen. Leopard Gnomes are too dangerous.
The
we can't go there.
was nearly destroyed in Shadowlands. This restoration with the timescape has now been going on for like, what, 15 years? So these zones, by this point, should be completely different.
Yeah,
I'm talking like
Plaguelands
actually being renamed different and just called Lordaeron, no longer being Plaguelands. Maybe having some dead parts be quite isolated to show that it can never be like it was in the past, but Plaguelands should no longer be mushrooms, cauldrons, necromancers, and undead all over the place. We should be seeing more forests and more alliance type cities. We could potentially be seeing the clearing of Stratholm, for example, or massive changes to that area, maybe even some rebuilding process there, although I do think it would be a little bit too optimistic. I think Stratholm is kind of beyond saving at this point in time, or really at any point in time, unless
something happened in that place. Good old purging. I don't know if you can revamp a purge.
Big story development happens to Stratholm.
I don't know if we go back there.
Another thing we have that is almost 100% certainly going to happen is the update to the Arathi Highlands and Stromgarde. Now, I've talked about this so much in the past, but remember, in
Stromgarde
the lore,
being an
this city
actual
is fully
city that
built.
you could
It is
do
a
shit in would be
functioning
cool.
Alliance city that actually works. In the game,
Yeah.
it was also completely rebuilt with all these new buildings, all these new structures.
It looks great.
But technically, it is stuck in BFA in this
What's up,
endless
Baby J?
Golden Alliance battle that we know was finished years ago. So almost certainly, we should expect that Stromgarde will become some type of an Alliance hub. Furthermore, we're getting these Arathi humans in war.
These Arathi humans are so fucking badass. I cannot wait. This is one of the zones that I'm most excited to go to. This new zone with the crystal ceiling and all that shit, I can't wait to go there. Now, do I think will we? And you're saying, well, do I think we'll see Anduin in game? We'll probably. I don't know if like the cinematic in terms of time of when it happens, where Thrall finds Anduin. That's the first time that we even realize that Anduin is like back in Azeroth. So if we see Anduin in before the War Within, it'll probably be like some pre-expansion event. You know, like a quest. Thank you for the sub, baby. 7 months of Baby J coming in here and subbing. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for the prime. The Anduin coming back will probably be some kind of pre-expansion event. I could see that happening, where, you know, the Return of the King and all that. Thrall goes and gets him. They cry it out a little bit, talk about the sword and Silithus. I could imagine all that stuff happening as a pre-expansion event, you know, leading up to the hype. That will be the War Within. But before that, I don't think we'll see Anduin. Like I said, at the earliest, he'll be like right before the expansion goes live.
Which might turn out to be a big connection to what happens
Yes,
later down the line, although it is too early to speculate. Now, keep in mind, they didn't
what
actually
sword?
mention
I don't
these
know.
zones coming certainly, but I gotta say, it is highly likely, especially since they're doing a Gilneas revamp in 10.
He is in the maw, but he comes back. That's how Thrall finds him.
In the WoW Midnight announcement.
Right
also,
now, he's in the maw.
They said they're adding that little blocked path to Quel'Thalas, 2 new Quel'Thalas. I mean, do you really think they should just enlarge this small part of the continent, add new things, and just keep everything surrounding it the same, even though they're actually like bordering each other? As I previously mentioned, I feel like this little line that kind of splits the Eastern Kingdom.
I kind of agree with Doran
here.
here.
Southern is going to be the dividing line of the
revamp, yeah.
Almost certainly won't do the entire continent revamp in this expansion, but the northern half is like 90% likely. Now, I don't actually believe we will get everything in WoW Midnight, but we might be getting these heritage type quest lines even in the War Within. So, as we got Gilneas in 10.2.5, we might get a new Stromgarde or a new Undercity in maybe 11.2.5, which could lead into the big storyline in Midnight. Thank you for watching. Check out Paladins coming to all races by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by also clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Look, we always joke about, you know, the things Doran says in his videos and the speculation. I like the speculation. It's fun to play with. But honestly, there wasn't much speculation in this video. A lot of what he said is just based on what the Blizzard devs said and a little bit of, you know, explaining of that and what we think could happen. I think Doran's spot on here. That divider line is probably where they're going to start the revamp from and just go all the way up with it. And this is going to be... I'm so damn excited. I'm such a simp, man. I'll pre-order this shit right now. I haven't pre-ordered War Within. I'll pre-order Midnight. But great video. Great video from Doran, and I agree with a lot with what he said.